Well, we are back in the pit, and because it's not a day off when everyone goes to Vienna with their family, Markus Feldmann, and we are with Mighty Markus, the man who took TQ. This is just before the semi-finals, so hopefully it'll be a good result from in about an hour's time. But what we're going to do is a quick chat with Markus, and Markus is going to show us around these 1/5 scale behemoth cars. So Markus, so far it's all gone pretty well, isn't it?
Yes, it was not as easy as I may have expected from all the races this year, but finally everything worked out. Track is difficult, it was tough, but it was okay.
It's interesting, the track to me looks quite simple. You know, it's a 19-second lap, it looks quite easy, there's no great levels of high speed. What makes it so tricky for these cars?
The problem is that you don't really have time to relax. You don't have a real straight because that is the change from the one end of the track to the new part of the track, so you don't really have time to relax. The curbs are quite high, so even if you touch them, you are always risking to flip over.
Now the big battle, of course, this weekend may well be against the weather. The heats come up, which is both for the semi-finals, which I don't know how good news it is, because obviously the hotter it gets, the more people get worried about fuel consumption, don't they?
Yeah, fuel is quite an issue here. I don't think there's anybody really relaxed about that. So.
Now, the main reason we're here is not for us to have a little chit-chat and talk about things, is for Markus going to show us around these cars, which, as everyone who's ever watched RC racing knows, I love 5th scale cars because they're proper engineering. Things you can use a hammer on. I'm sure you wouldn't. So, firstly, we spoke yesterday about the body shells. Body shell, absolutely key. It's the thing that's homologated, but I'm going to whip it off, as they say, and put it over here and allow Markus a little bit of time to talk about. So, Markus, give us a kind of an overview into the ins and outs of the 1/5 scale touring car.
Okay, I think the biggest difference for everybody here is the beautiful noise reduction. You probably have seen that there were quite a few drivers having issues, more or less. So everybody had to be prepared to do something, and put some bubble paper around, tape it, and to reduce the noise level.
And does that affect power?
No. Power is no different, it's just getting the vibration of the air intake and to get it a little quieter.
Now, the first unique thing for 5th scale cars compared to other radio controlled cars is this is a proper 2-stroke engine. It runs on petrol with I suppose a normal sort of motorcycle 2-stroke additive in there. To give us an idea of how much tuning goes into it, is this like a standard engine that comes from, what's the origins of the engine? What is it used for commercially?
Basically, this engine from Tenor, but it's already in 8 to 9 years ago, was made for RC racing. But still, the basic is made from the garden engines. But people are working on making and producing for the future a real 5th scale racing engine made for racing and not with the history of gardening engines.
The weed whacker, as the Americans would say. Now how much? The interesting thing is, when we look at the list of engines on the entry list, there's so many different people on the list of engine manufacturers. I take it they're just the two-stroke tuners, are they? So they're all fitted. And how much difference is there between an engine that's well tuned and just an ordinary engine?
I think in the last couple of years, the actual tuning of the cylinder, piston, crankshaft is getting less. It's more that every part is running free, the balance is better, and the parts fit together nicely. A lot of time was spent into the ignition system, because there is no external ignition with external power supply allowed, so it needs to be inside, and there was a lot of work coming in. So this year the news is that everybody's using smaller flywheels, different kind of flywheels, less fans, different bending of the fans to reduce the resistance.
And what sort of horsepower are these engines producing?
I think it's between 4 and 5 horsepower actually.
Now I've heard that one of the key things about horsepower is actually these little bendy things here, the Samba exhausts, and a decent exhaust is actually where all the power is found. Is that right?
Yeah, but to be honest, the Samba 7 titanium is now on the market for at least 2.5 years, so there is no big improvement. Laszlo from Samba, he brought the Samba 8 here as a prototype. Marius Hetland was using it. It sounds good, but none of us has tested it yet, so we can't say if there's any big difference.
But yeah, I mean, the exhaust, of course, in a two-stroke, not only does it give the amount of power, but it changes where the power is in the rev range, doesn't it?
Yeah, exactly. There's two types of the Samba 7 available now. One is called Torque, where you have a little better bottom end, and this is a standard one where the overall range is better.
Now the other thing, of course, which is fabulous, you look at look at that. That's a good free. I know the clutch is spinning, but that bit there, which looks like an innocent box, is really very important, isn't it? That is a very, very advanced differential. Give us an idea of what you can do with the differentials on these cars.
Everything. No, this is the new Mecatech diff. This is one of the bigger news this year. We are using and testing it since the beginning of the year. And this is really a step forward because you really can adjust to all the needs you want. It's very smooth, which is important because there are also diffs which create a lot of lock power, but they are almost undrivable from a certain stage. And this one is really smooth, and you really can adapt to absolutely your driving style.
So give me an idea, if you wanted to use a differential to get more, I don't know, on-power steering, is that just an adjustment that you can make on it?
Yes, and you even can adjust left and right, different.
Now that is advanced. Now, before we get any further back, what I've noticed here also, everything's big, everything's more real. Even the rear shock absorbers have little kind of, are those actually real gas canisters or just kind of like a fake to look good?
No, there's a second piston inside with a spring, so you don't need the rubber valve.
Okay.
So if you get a fast hit, first it will move in the spring, and the compensation is a lot higher than just having the rubber.
So moving forward, first of all, on the other side of the pipe, we have the basic battery which powers the electric. Then we have the fuel tank. Now, this is going to be absolutely vital, isn't it, in the half-hour races? There's a maximum size. There's no refueling in the races. So what is the capacity of the fuel tank?
700cc maximum. So 701 means disqualified.
And that's a premix, isn't it? You have ordinary pump petrol, which you've mixed with. Is it a special racing two-stroke, or is it just like a motorcycle two-stroke?
No, what we are using is Motul kart oil, because the two-stroke motorcycle engines are not running or revving as high as the kart engines, so they come closer to our engines. This is why we use kart oil.
And coming forward again, we come to the radio. And everyone asks, how on earth do you get these cars to turn around? And the answer is you use two massive servos. And then, of course, you have a servo for the front brakes and a servo for the rear brakes. I mean, how much effort are these being put under? I mean, do these burn out quite a lot? Do you get through a lot of servos, or these days is everything very reliable at that end?
They are quite reliable. Even one servo will be strong and powerful enough to steer the car around. The problem is just that the gears are quite weak, and so you need two to get if you have a crash, that the power is split on two gears.
And the other thing which is absolutely fantastic about these cars, and the bit I actually, if I'm very honest, the thing I like most about fifth scale cars is they've got proper, you have to get in there, Matt, to see those, proper disc brakes on each wheel, hydraulically operated, powered by a little hydraulic. Sorry, Matt. You come back here. You see that's the hydraulic reservoir, which anyone who's used to motorcycles will recognise that as sort of thing you see on the rear brakes, obviously much smaller. I mean, how much? I mean, the braking is really impressive in these. I mean, how much are you adjusting that, and how much braking force do you have?
On that track, to be honest, quite a lot. Compared to this track, on most of the other tracks, the balance is quite smooth, and I use a lot more rear brake than I can use here, because you have a lot of bank corners, and if you have too much rear brake, the car will turn and spin around.
Now, I know that some modern radio systems can do a sort of a pseudo anti-lock device. Is that something you use on your car?
This is, I never tried that. I really prefer to have it in the finger.
Now, one thing I have noticed, and this is just on your car, you have three lovely brand spanking new tyres and one manky old one. Is that because you've not put the new one on yet, or is that how you're going to run in the semi-final?
This is how I will run in the semi-final, and we did all the race, because the problem now occurs that the inside tire has no wear, and it's picking up the shit from the track, so it's growing. And if you have as newer the tire are, as more shit it takes. And then after 10-15 minutes, it's possible that this tire creates so much grip from the picked up rubber that you flip or just have a lot of oversteering.
I mean, it's interesting watching those 20-minute races, and some cars that start great by the end are looking horrible, and vice versa. How much will the car change during the half-hour race?
A lot. This is what always is also the intention. If you have one qualifying run done very good, that you try to get the car good for long runs. That is the most important part there.
So mentally, I mean, a half-hour race. I mean, you've done this many times. You know, world champion, European champion, a million times. I mean, how do you prepare for this semi and final? Is it now just so easy, or do you get nervous? Do you get worried?
At the Euro races, I'm always nervous. I never will get rid of that. Compared to the standard, but the FR races, it's good that you start and you see how the first couple of laps run. But here I have a lot of pressure on my blood.
Markus, thank you very much for walking us around your car. Thank you for talking to us. And my mother taught me to be neat, so I'll put the body shell back on for you. And we'll see you out on the track in a few minutes. Markus, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Cheers. Well, that was our trip round to one car. And as you can see, it's empty as various people have been knocked out, but still the final to come.